Democrats tend to care quite a bit about the impact of federal dollars and the impact on job losses and programs shutting down because they believe in all these programs. And the Republicans want to shrink the size of the federal government. They want to show American voters that we can live with less government. So it's always more pressure on the Democrats, I think, when the government shuts down. They held the line in 2018, 2019, and that was a long, more than 30 days of a shutdown. And eventually Trump blinked. But this time is different because the Republicans own all the branches of government, and they have owned and supported the president's effort to cut government, cut jobs, cut programs. This latest sort of threat to withhold transportation money for New York could be aimed at affecting the mayoral election, but it also could just be a direct aim across the bow at Chuck Schumer, the senator who's the minority leader of the Senate, majority leader for the Democratic Party. And so they're playing hardball, and they have the capacity now because they own all the branches of government, and they're not facing any kind of election for another year. So I think the Democrats will have to continue to justify their holdout position, and I think that's going to get tougher.
Wendy, you mentioned Chuck Schumer, the Senate minority leader, of course, did support a continuing resolution in March of 2025 and caught a lot of flack for it. How much of what they're doing now is because of the fallout from the last time that he, as some people would say, caved into Republican demands?
Well, I think, Scarlett, this is a really important point about the electoral politics around this, which is to motivate the Democratic Party base, which is, in despair, I think you could argue, and did not turn out the way the Democrats hoped clearly in 2024. And so we've got elections in Jersey, elections in Virginia, and they need Democrats to get out the door, and they need some sort of catalyst, and there hasn't been one. So fighting the good fight, even with pressure and losses, can try to motivate the base. And that's why the Democrats are doing what they're doing. And that's why Schumer's doing what he's doing now and holding the line. The timing is tricky on this healthcare issue for Obamacare and the subsidies, which is the biggest thing the Democrats want, an extension of these tax breaks. Those letters about the increase in premiums don't go out for another couple of weeks. So the political impact, the pain that voters might feel isn't going to be felt for another couple of weeks. Can the Democrats hold out long enough to get that reverse pressure on the Republicans once millions of people get letters that say their premiums are going to double because these tax breaks are going to expire? And that's the pressure the Democrats need. I just don't know if it comes soon enough.
What role do you expect President Trump to play, if any, I guess, during this whole process here? Do you think he may just kind of stay low and let the folks in Congress fight it out, or will he try to take a higher profile role here?
Paul, this is not a president who shies away from a fight, and he likes to show and demonstrate the exercise of his power. This is power. I mean, just putting grants on hold for New York City or New York State, that's power, whether the courts say it's legally within the scope of the president's actions and power, we're about to find out. But Trump loves a fight because he sees that he can win it. And he's not, at the moment, running for re-election in 2028. He seems to care about the midterms in 26, but the Republicans think that's a year away, and voters have shorter memories than the Democrats hope for.
We do have a headline here from Speaker Mike Johnson saying the House will be returning next week. Wendy, just put into context for us what the House would be doing if it does return to work next week and there is still a government shutdown. I ask because my understanding is in order for there to be any funding, you need Democratic votes from the Senate side. And that's what we're focused on, not so much what the House does.
Yeah, this is a really interesting scenario, but it's frequently this scenario. Go way back to 2013. Ted Cruz shut the government down. John Boehner was the Republican Speaker of the House. The House did its job. The House is willing to go forward, but the Senate stopped it and forced the shutdown. So I don't think the House is as relevant a player. They're not going to change what they're voting on. That's their position. The only pressure would be if Thune decides, the Senate Majority Leader Republican, to compromise with the Democrats, which we don't see at the moment. Then it would force the House to revisit and come back and pass something different. But these signals will come from Donald Trump. If he decides this might be expensive for him in some way, the stock market could have something to do with that, then he'll push both sides to a compromise. And Thune has already said that they'll consider extending these tax subsidies, but not in the next 7 weeks. So I think that's where it makes things quite tricky in terms of the rhetoric for the Democrats.